Let us give a resounding round of applause as we warmly welcome our distinguished panelists for the second symposium. We now proudly present to you Dr. Melati Nungsari, Mr. Chiam Tat In, Lee Kuan Kiat, and our moderator for Symposium 2, Ms. Freda Liu.
Before we begin with Symposium 2, we would like to take a moment to introduce our speaker and moderator. Firstly, we are honored to have Dr. Melati Nungsari as our speaker. Dr. Melati is an applied microeconomist with extensive academic leadership. She has held positions at leading institutions and is a research affiliate at MIT Sloan School of Management. With expertise in market design, public economics, and economic policy. Nextly, we are honored to have Mr. Chiam Tat In. Mr. Chiam is the Managing Director of Equinix Malaysia. He is an IT industry veteran with over 3 decades of experience in driving business growth and has held key leadership roles at leading technology companies, including SAS, the Center of Applied Data Science, CADS, EMC, Sun Microsystems, Northel Networks, and Contact Computers.
Moving on, we have Mr. Lee Kuan Kiat. Mr. Lee is an advisor to various regional and global business groups based in ASEAN with extensive engagement in the digital space through M&A, strategic partnership, and investments. He was the CFO of Bank Mandiri, senior executive at the ANZ Group, director at the Victoria, Auditor General, and a chartered accountant with one of the Big Four. Lastly, our moderator for this session is Ms. Freda Liu. Ms. Freda is a highly experienced business communicator with over 20 years in the industry and has conducted more than 5,000 interviews with global leaders. She is a sought-after moderator, author, and corporate trainer, currently hosting the Shift Asia and actively contributing to conversations on leadership, sustainability, and ESG. There will be a QR code on the top right of the slide, so feel free to scan and place your questions there anytime throughout this symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, Ms. Freda, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you to the MCs. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's so lovely to see university students and also something that supports education, supporting our future leaders. I'm definitely all for it. You're in a beautiful hall. I know some of you have traveled far and wide to be here, so kudos to you. The first, USM. Anyone further than Penang? Okay. From where? Those further than Penang? Huh? Kelantan? Terengganu. All right. Okay. So welcome. Anyway, I'm very honored to have these esteemed lineup of panelists here. Thank you to the MCs for introducing them, so I don't have to go through this. But this afternoon's conversation is important. Everybody's talking about AI. We're in the room talking about how this is going to change our lives, whether we have work in the future. Now, our topic, right? So Malaysia is an inflection point. So we're seeing billions in data center investments, so a national push towards AI, and a government that has staked its economic future on digitalization. But here's a question that should matter to everyone in this room, right? Who benefits? So when we talk about Malaysia's digital frontier, we're really talking about 3 groups that don't always move in the same direction. The rakyat, whose lives and livelihoods will be transformed, businesses who see both opportunity and disruption, and government, which must somehow balance growth with equity. So we're going to start off with a little bit of sharing from them, and then we'll go into a full panel discussion. I'm going to start with the lady first. Dr. Melati, you study how economic policies actually affect Malaysians, particularly those who aren't in boardrooms when these decisions get made. So when we talk about digital transformation, what does the evidence tell us about who gains and who gets left behind, and what should we be watching for as this next wave of investment arrives?
Hello? Okay, everybody can hear me. All right. So hi everybody. Very, very happy to be here, and thank you, Freda, for the introduction. Okay, so I feel like we can go on answering this particular question for a very long time, but I'll give you certain case studies that sort of illustrate pros and cons from sort of AI building, for example, more AI infrastructure in the country, right? So I work a lot with undocumented individuals in particular refugees and migrant populations here in Malaysia. And because they're residing in Malaysia, we need to care about them because basically the society is comprised of different types of people, right? And this is a fairly large group of people. If you see the statistics and you look at undocumented migrants, some estimates put it at 6 million people. So compared to our, and I can do some economics here because I just verified with Kieran that most of you are econ majors. So if you look at the labor force, how big is the Malaysian labor force? Oh my gosh, guys. How many million? Raise your hand. Be proud of your knowledge.
Quick, Google now.
How big is the Malaysian labor force? 1/6, right? So 16 million roughly. So we have, of course, Malaysia is in this region what we call a talent attractor to a lot of what we call low-skilled workers from around the region, and this is about what the higher estimates have put it at 6 million, right? So for these groups, AI has been fantastic actually. AI has allowed them to be able to communicate better. AI has allowed them to access things that they could never have. AI has allowed them basically opening up doors to a variety of different bodies of knowledge that they never had before. So that is a great thing. I'll give you another example. So some of you maybe are from Johor, maybe? Anybody from Johor here? So you know that the investment attraction and the building of data centers and all of that, right? So is that a good or a bad thing? We think about the resources that are required to generate this, but another thing that keeps on being promised is jobs. And is it actually true that one data center is going to employ a bunch of Malaysians? Not true, right? It's not going to employ as many Malaysians as what we think, right? So there is one other con. Let me talk about, for example, the urban-rural divide in Malaysia, right? So can people access with more digitalization economic opportunities? And the answer is yes. So I run a program in Sabah where I work a lot with high school kids in Sandakan. And there we have seen a lot of people don't want to relocate from rural areas because, why would you? You want to stay close to your family. And so one way to access the market in general is through social media, through Shopee, through TikTok, through whatever it is, so that you can basically be broadcasting live from your own room, from your own house. You don't need to move to KL, you don't need to move to KK for any of this, and the opportunities are right in front of you, right? And so these are just kind of like different pieces, I think, of this kind of huge ecosystem that we think about when it comes to AI. And so what I think is going to happen is the following. I think that, of course, richer people will always gain, people closer to resources will always gain. But I know from the government's perspective, and I've spoken quite a bit to Minister Gobin about this as well, from the government's perspective, I think the idea is what kind of policies can we put in place so that everybody gets access to all of these resources. We have not been successful as a country in getting everybody to progress at the same speed. So this will be another issue, I think, coming up for us. And so I would say that overall, the rich, the people with ability to kind of gain, access to capital will always be better off. The problem for us, problem for you guys, is to figure out how can we make this equitable, right? And also, before I hand back to Freda, one other thing to note is that we should not also think that this is a bad thing, because, like I said, the migrants, the people in rural areas, AI will actually, digitalization will actually make their lives much better, right? For all of you, maybe we can envision a world where we can have more hobbies and do things because the robots are doing all the menial tasks for us. But also the robots may take our jobs away from us, right? So how do you kind of balance that? But it's sort of like I think anybody who tells you that it's black or white is probably lying to you. It's more like a various shades of gray, 75 shades of gray. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Lo. All right. Okay, I'm sure you got a lot of questions really from what you said. Mr. Cham, so Equinix is putting real capital into Malaysian ground. Data centers are suddenly everywhere in national conversation, sometimes celebrated as economic engines, sometimes criticized for their resource demands. So from inside the industry, in what Dr. Melati said, are we all hiring locals? From inside the industry, what does responsible digital infrastructure investment actually look like, and how do you think about the gap between what global investors want and what Malaysia needs.
All right, thank you, Fred. Good afternoon. So I'm going to make it very structured because we're all students here. So I'm going to start off with why data centers, right? And then I'm going to talk about what is driving the growth of data centers around the world. What is the economic value of data centers, specifically to Malaysia? And also, why Malaysia? Why Malaysia, and specifically Johor, is today the fastest growing data center market in all of Asia. Finally, how do we balance between sustainability and economic? So let me start with introducing Equinix. So Equinix is the world's digital infrastructure company with more than 270 data centers spanning across 36 countries. And all of these forming the world's largest digital ecosystem, right? With more than 10,000 enterprises, network, cloud, and content providers connecting with their customers and their partners. Now, what does this all mean to all of us in this room here? It's all big numbers. So every morning when you get up, and you head on to the first international or global news site, or when you do an e-commerce transaction, buying that particular thing that you like, or if you happen to trade on the New York Stock Exchange, chances are everything that you do will be processed or routed through at least one or more of these 270 data centers around the world. So what that, in essence, that means is that data centers are fundamental to the wider digital ecosystem and serve as the core infrastructure for the digital economy. Right? Now let's go on to the next one. What is driving the growth of data centers all around the world? There are two major things happening that's causing this. Number one, increasing cloud adoption. And secondly, of course we all know this, the demand by AI workloads. Now let's take cloud. Cloud is an easy one because you've seen a lot of cloud service providers making investments all over the world. Basically what they're doing is they're building out cloud regions closer to their customers to serve them better all over the world. Secondly, the AI space. Now, AI has already, used to be is, now it has already impacted every aspect of society. Every industry is now impacted by AI. You can't say, I'm not impacted. But chances are you are already, you may not know it, but you are there. Now, 2 years ago, or about there, we see things like what we call the generative AI, right? You guys understand the concept of generative AI, like the ChatGPTs, the DeepSeek, Human, Alibaba. So these models started coming out, and we all started adopting them. To train this model takes a lot of computing resources. They are power intensive, take huge computing facilities. That's why you could have read in the papers, people are building $2 billion data centers, lots of power, and so on. Now, these tend to be concentrated in a few very, very big centers around the world. But what we're seeing now, in just a relatively short time, is the emergence of what we call models being used for inferencing now, closer to where the data is created or used. Right? Now, what does inferencing mean? Inferencing basically means this is where you use AI to help you make decisions now. Not just querying, but now the AIs are helping you make decisions. Or there are new terms now coming out, agentic AI right now. You're seeing that right now, right? Now, with this trend in AI, what it means is you're going to have a lot more computing data centers spread further out across the world than having one or two major ones doing what we call model training, the large language model training, right? So with the distributed computing network and digital infrastructure that is required, plus the growing cloud regions that the cloud service providers are providing, now you see why there's this huge demand of data centers all around the world. Right? Now, as a company that's looking at building data centers around the world, people will say, why Malaysia? Why did you pick Malaysia? So, a couple of reasons. Number one is clearly the favorable government policies and initiatives, like the new Industrial Master Plan 2030 and the Digital Ecosystem Acceleration Scheme. Also, the My Digital Initiative, that is the objective of My Digital Initiative, as you all know this, I know some of you have read through this and you're looking at that, is to transform Malaysia into a digital economy powerhouse. And also, there's an abundance of affordable land, lower power tariffs relative to many, many other countries. Here's one more thing that would affect all of you in this room here. We actually have a very big talent pool of skilled and multilingual. Now that's Malaysia's strength actually. In our industries, we have to deal with companies coming in from many parts of the world, from China, from the US, from Europe, and so on. Our multilingual capability is actually our strength. Finally, one more thing, which is very, very important, is our proximity to Singapore, which is one of the world's largest digital ecosystems. That explains why Johor is kind of like a hotbed today for all new data centers. Johor's capacity in terms of development is almost more than 5 times that inside China. Just to give you a perspective about the amount of money that's going into. Now, what is the economic impact? How does data centers impact us economically, especially here in Malaysia, right? I mean, you read about us using water, power. So you're asking the question, you see this huge building, you go to Johor, Research Area Tech Park, this huge building, 2 times, 3 times the size of one of Tama, and you're wondering what's inside there. So what's the economic impact for Malaysia? Okay. So according to MITI, between 2021 and the first half of 2025, Malaysia attracted about 144 billion of data center investments. So I was asked recently, are we seeing the effect of this 144 billion coming to Malaysia? Yes, we are. You see the ringgit strengthening to a level that we have never seen before. And then you see construction company, engineering companies are now announcing pipeline on a monthly, weekly basis. They are filled up multi-year pipeline. Companies supplying power and cooling systems to data centers are saying they are experiencing tremendous growth. And what is more important for you all here is more architectural design and engineering and also project management jobs are being created in addition to those operations and management of data centers. Now, according to a study by KPMG that the Asia Pacific Data Center Association commissioned the study, the Malaysian data center industry is expected to generate about 30,000 jobs by the year 2030 and contribute about 4% of national economy. In addition to that, a lot of these AI and cloud companies are setting up Malaysia as their regional hub, seeing where a lot of highly skilled jobs are created to support these kind of work of AI and cloud. So if you look at overall job market, especially for you all, because when economic impact to you mostly is, do I get a job? Can I get a job or not? Definitely, because you're seeing, like I said, engineering students, their engineering roles, their project management roles, architecture roles, AI, project management, you name it, are all being created as a result of all these data center investments coming to Malaysia. Finally, how do we balance economic impact and sustainability? Because for us at Equinix, sustainability is not optional. It is a strategic imperative crucial for the long-term success of the data center industry. We continue to expand our renewable energy sources, improve on our data center design. There's a lot of green design reflected in to our data centers, deploy advanced cooling systems that aim to reduce both power and water usage, reinforcing our environment commitments while supporting the need for digital infrastructure. That we know, because digital economy will continue to grow, and digital infrastructure will continue to facilitate that. So when resources are constrained, for example power, from our perspective, what really matters is early planning and close collaboration with utility and regulators. We plan years ahead, and we work together to ensure that our growth is coordinated with national energy planning. So in other words, this is an industry where we spend as much time looking at sustainability as we are getting digital infrastructure ready to support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chiang. And if you have any questions from what he's just mentioned, I'm going to move on, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, you spent your career at the intersection of capital, strategy, and institutions. You see what happens when countries get investment frameworks right and when they don't. When you look at the current rush of digital investment to Malaysia, what excites you? What concerns you? Are we building lasting value or chasing a moment? And maybe in your answer, those that get their investment framework right, what were the ingredients?
Good afternoon. It's really great to see all of you young people just about to go into this brave new world. I mean, there's so many changes going on. I was reminded when I first started my career, reminded change is a constant. It means you should expect change. Yeah. And when I studied my computer science, or one of the subjects as a commerce student, I was using punch cards. I mean, none of you would experience what punch card means. But still, a lot of the relevant things I learned carried me through my whole career. It kept changing in different forms. And the second thing I want to share with you is, yes, I've worked in government, I've worked in a large organization, the Intel Group, and I've also worked in Bank Mandiri. It was a very traumatic time for Indonesians because there was a big crisis, right? And when we put 4 banks together, it's no mean feat, and we had to cut 20% of the workforce. So, out of necessity, a lot of things had to be done, but something good came out of it, right? Things must keep changing, and you must keep crafting what it all means. Even this, our nation, what was done just weeks ago, who could predict that this war is changing everything, right, in the Middle East? So there is always a need to respond to all these things. Will the jobs created out of all these things cover all the unemployment in this place? I don't know. But can you afford not to do all these things? You can't either. You see? So, but I trust from all the experience that I've been through that some job will come out of it. Right? And the people who are going to create, who are going to be part of this creation of the new job, are you people here today? Some of you may participate in the big data center that Chiang is not involved in, but some of you might be working in little small shops. I have been involved in big issues. I've talked to ministers. I've also talked to just a few people trying to do things of what these opportunities create. Okay, and it is no different. In fact, when I first started out in my work career, there was an oil crisis. Inflation just keep going up, and it does have a very big impact. But you just have to keep going, right? I mean, that inflation will go away at some stage, but in the meantime, that is worrying everybody, right? So this question of how is this going to impact opportunities, all the new things that will be created, and how it's going to impact jobs and equity, I think so will be an ongoing perennial question. There is no question that the ability of our nation to absorb not just Malaysians but foreign workers here is just amazing. It's amazing that we are able to do that. And this, like Cham said, actually Malaysia is in a very strategic location. We are in this location geographically. I mean, there's a lot of history and a lot of that, how the different people from different backgrounds come together to create something new. This has been going on for a long, long time. And all I can say is, yes, audience will be very questions, and yet they present, that's the other thing that I'll always remember, crisis creates opportunities. And always look at opportunities as much as, of course we recognize the crisis creates a lot of problems for a lot of people, but it creates a lot of opportunities as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Maybe inflation concerns their parents in the moment, not yet. They're still happy in the little bubble. Who knows, right?
Well, Malaysia not so much, but I tell you, a lot of people, the fuel prices is feeding into so many things, and it's not reflected fully yet.
Yet, akan datang. Now, we'll talk about the promise versus the reality, and Dr. Melati, you spoke about earlier on, right? We keep hearing that digitalization will create jobs, boost productivity, and lift incomes, and you mentioned a little bit that richer people will always gain, right? And also, I guess, Dr. Melati, what is the data actually showing? Under what conditions do these benefits materialize, and for who? Go deeper into this.
All right, so I think maybe just to backtrack a little bit, right? So for all of you, I mean, I'm sure you think quite a bit about this. My son is 11 and sort of much younger than you all, but he I think has this sense of impending doom already about the state of the world. So I get that sense quite a bit. But let's think about the effect on the labor market specifically, right? So this is basically generally what the data shows us, not specific to Malaysia, but just overall, right? So just quoting some studies here. So first of all, before we even talk about AI, we need to talk about fertility, right? The fact that actually worldwide we are seeing a huge decrease in fertility. For a long time, economists were wondering, and maybe some of you are into this, is it an issue of economics? Is it the fact that people just don't want to have kids? Is it the fact that biologically people are just not able to have children anymore? It turns out it's a combination of all three, but what is actually the biggest factor of declining fertility? You guess. Come on, all the econ degree people. It's economics, right? It's the fact that it's very expensive to have children. Women do not want to be tied at home anymore. You can have a very stable, happy relationship without children, right? So you don't actually need children. So that's a great thing from sort of an individual perspective to realize, but the opposite of that is that societies will have to kind of deal with people basically not existing anymore. The burden on people like you is going to be much bigger because you are going to have to basically bear the brunt of the workforce. You will have to work. You'll have to take care of a bunch of old people in your family, unfortunately. And so it's a very bleak look, right? But so because of that, I think there's been a lot of question, so can AI, can digitalization fill some of these gaps, right? And so what we have seen so far is, in terms of the ability, for example, elderly care. I've been looking into elderly care quite a bit. Can we actually mobilize some robotics, some AI to do a bit more of the elderly care so that you all, the young people, don't have to be the ones stuck doing it? As of now, no, not yet, right? But there's a lot of stuff coming out now which indicates that we're probably 5 to 10 years away from fully roboticized people taking care of your grandparents, for example, or my parents, right? And so we're kind of getting there. So that then brings the question of how is it going to affect all of you? Well, probably not good, honestly, in the kind of front part, right? Because again, we will have to think about a very fundamental way of reorganizing our society. Now, I was just talking to Kieran, Kieran was saying last time they used to do essays for this. but now cannot do essays anymore because the AI will just write the essay, right? I mean, I'm an economics professor, and I also think now, like, I cannot give you all multiple choice take-home exams. I can't give you essays anymore. You know, like, what do I give you, right? How do I test that you know things? Is it even important that you know things? Because you can just use AI, right? Like there are all these questions that nobody really has the answer to. But what we do know is that people like you guys will actually be at risk for the jobs. Because if you ask a lot of SMEs in Malaysia now, and I've seen some recent survey data coming out soon about, you know, what's going to happen to kind of entry-level jobs, if you're thinking about it from a company perspective, the easiest jobs to automate will always be the entry-level jobs. So that's kind of a problem for youth employment, right, in particular. And the second thing is there kind of a way up? So in the past, and maybe some of you have benefited from this idea of mentorship, right? Somebody takes time to teach you how to be professional in the workplace, to like direct you to specific skills and stuff like that, which is great if you're the mentee, but if you're the mentor, you actually realize that this is a lot of work. Like building people, building talent is a lot of work. And if I can actually assign that role to an AI, who I don't have to deal with, I mean, very frankly speaking, the drama, the human interaction and stuff like that, from a cost perspective, it actually makes sense to use the AI, right? So I'm just giving you some kind of a little bit more of like bleak opportunities here for the labor market. And so honestly, as a labor economist, I am very concerned. I've always been concerned, but I think increasingly I am more concerned because I don't think we fully understand. We don't want to think about this like super bleak world, right? We have like war, we have oil prices, right? I'm pretty sure the government's going to pull the subsidy away soon because there's no way we can afford to even subsidize 200 liters. Like I mean, then companies will not have money, they won't be hiring, so it's a very bleak world out there. So I think that we need to fundamentally think about what actually do we want, right? And so is it that we should be competing in lowest cost? So as you know, in Malaysia, we have always competed for being the affordable option, right? It has always been that we are affordable labor, affordable land, affordable everything, right? Is that really the best way to think about yourselves, right? I sort of posed to you that question. I don't know anymore. But what I do know is that the ability to keep on having to reimagine yourself, like what you said just now, will be absolutely crucial, right? There is no way that you all, and me as well, can live in a world where you will be doing the same thing for 40 years. That's not going to be what's happening right now. Last time, like my parents' generation, you go to uni, you get your degree, you work, and then you do the same thing for like 40 tahun, and then you retire, right? That's not going to be the world that you guys are in. That's not the world that I'm going to be in. And so we need to think about what are some, you know, like it cannot be static, right? You have to keep on thinking about what's next. Maybe this doesn't work anymore. I cannot do this anymore. Maybe the degree I'm doing right now is not relevant, right? So that's another thing that is quite painful for people to hear, is that you spent 3 years and then actually, like, an AI can do your job as better, like, so what, right? So everybody is going to be relevant, I think, at some point. But the point is that people need to start thinking about changing, right? Just like if I can't do this, I do something else. If I can't do this, I do something else. I was on a panel recently. Taylor's launched this PPE program, so the Politics, Philosophy, Economics program. And I'm on the Industrial Advisory panel. And so this is the first time I heard him speak in person. So Kyrie was there speaking. And I don't agree with him a lot of things, but for this, he did say something very interesting. He said, you know, I never thought I had to like reimagine myself so late in life, right? And so he said like that has been something that has sort of shaken him to the core, which is like, I did this thing for 40 years, or not for him, not 40 years, but I did this thing for a long time, and now I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore, right? And I need to think about something different to do. And I feel like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but teaching people, teaching young Malaysians, the ability to not see yourself stuck is going to be something quite important, right? And so I never have advice for people, but I sort of see that as being the key. Because I think what we're going to see in the next couple of years is that the types of jobs that you all will do will probably be very different than the jobs you were trained for. My son who's 11, I'm thinking now, like, does he even need to go to university? I don't know. No, honestly, like it's sort of like an existential crisis, right? So, so the world will change, but it's okay, I think is the point, because we can't push back against what this change is happening, right? We just need to kind of like go where it is, and that's just, I think, the take from that, which is not quite an economics take, but I think a more human one.
Thank you, Dr. Melati. And I think like for me also, like probably every 10 years I've had a career change, but everything sort of like added
It is
on.
quite disruptive sometimes, right? Yeah.
You sometimes have to self-disrupt, right? You see the future and you got to self-disrupt and then change every 10 years to be more in line with times and how things are going to be. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are from a single, you know, like you're the only child? Oh, not so many in this crowd, maybe in some way. Right. Okay, now, I'm going to ask this to Mr. Chiang. There's a narrative that data centers bring high-paying tech jobs, okay? What does employment actually look like in your industry? Are we hiring locals? Are we, you know, and yeah.
Yeah, so to answer that directly, most of the data center in this, place in Malaysia, within the complex of the data centers, that Malaysians, probably hire Malaysians for that. But I think what I want to say here is I want you to look beyond data centers because, and I get this a lot. All of us get this, right? You ever go to a government department, see a minister, you see somebody, they say, how many people are there working in data centers? You see, a data center is a very huge building, that's for sure. But when you walk in, it's a very quiet place. No, not really. I stand corrected. Very quiet in terms of not many people. There's a lot of machines in there, but not many people. So then you ask us, so you got this couple of $1 billion building here, and you got only a few people walking in and out. And probably very soon robotics will be taking over most of the jobs. So the question is it that big? No, it's not big. I'm here to tell you hope. I'm here to give you hope because what the industry does is something called leveraging. Because you need someone to build the building. We need construction companies to build it. We need architects to design the building. Now, everybody thinks a square building is easy. It's like, no, let me tell you, it is a very complex task. You need to understand green design. So that takes a lot of high-skilled architectural design understanding. Construction, the materials we use, the way we do it is not like just putting bricks and cement, opening up, and there you have it. So there's a lot of highly skilled requirements to put data center into operation. When you walk in, so here's the thing, right? A lot of people misinterpret data centers as strictly just IT. It's like I go, we try to do internship with some of the technology university, and they say, Mr. Chia, we send you 5 IT graduates. I said, no, IT is a very small portion of the data center. I want mechanical engineers, I want electrical engineers, I want civil engineers. Then they go like, you mean engineering students? Yes, engineering students. So now, all of a sudden, we say, yeah, we are absorbing engineers, a lot of engineers are being absorbed into the data centers, all inside Vijaya because of the construction, the design, architecture, because now I get it, sometimes some of the most senior people happen to be from overseas, from consulting companies from overseas, because you require skill level that are a lot more higher than what we currently have. Right? And here's the thing for Malaysians, right? One day, our aspiration is you can be that person who will be sent out to the outside world, to be that person who's now acting as consultant in Malaysia. So here's the opportunity for you. Look beyond just what we can do in Malaysia, and look outside at what you can be, influence people around the world. So there's a tremendous shift here in terms of how you look at jobs, how you look at career. It's not the job anymore. It's the influence that you can play in whatever field, whether it's architecture, engineering, design, data center operations, whatever it is. I've seen this, right? In some companies where, I won't quote name companies, that we have at the Asia Pacific leadership level, we've seen some companies where at least 30% of senior leadership are Malaysians or ex-Malaysians, unfortunately, right? But that's the point. That means there's something in us that stands out from our ability to adapt, our ability to make a difference to the outside world. So I'm challenging you, while there are jobs in the data center, to look at this beyond the shores of Malaysia and say, what can I do differently to influence the rest of the world?
Thank you. Mr. Lee, so foreign investment also often comes with conditions, right? Explicit or implicit. So when, not just tech, right, but when companies invest in Malaysia, what do they want in return, and what should we be more careful about what we give?
Yeah. My training has been in chartered accounting and in banking. And what's important in banking, of course, trust is important in terms of trying to build up what the bank represents, right? And the other bit is called risk management. So if you understand risk management in banking, it transcends the whole banking system. Whenever you're building a risk management system. It permeates everything that you do. So the investor, a lot of them also think in risk management. You know, I can put my money here, I can put my money there. Obviously, they want to minimize the risk and make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, the investors will get some sort of return. I mean, this is very normal. If you and I also have money, when we want to put it there, we also want to make sure that it comes back as return. So it's no different whether it is a global investor or individual investor. So everyone is engaged in some sort of risk management thinking, right? You know, how much can I get return? And of course, there's ethics involved as well. You know? Some people are no ethics, they don't care where the money goes into, as long as the return is there, it's fine. But I think so as a nation and as people seen as responsible, I think so ethics is quite important. And of course sometimes the tension that arises between the investor and company that's going to host them, or the country that's going to host them, is there are certain objectives the country wants to have. And of course the investor has certain objectives too. And to the extent that there should be no conflict, countries who know how to facilitate that, make sure that the investors will have comfort that whatever risk there are, they can manage it. It's important, right? Whether it is labor or whether it is other issues, environmental too. And most investors of any substance know all these issues. So they do put this into the calibration, and really it does. You know, it is true. Malaysia does it quite well. You know how to set the rules and know what concerns investors, and you try to make sure that investors can manage their risk, bearing all the circumstances. But of course, sometimes you get occasions where people say, yes, all these foreign investors just take all the benefits and nothing of benefit to the community. And there's cases for this to be addressed. And these are things that, it takes good people in the government, good people who are concerned about these things affecting the community, to make sure that these matters are being addressed. I mean, most investors are interested in just getting the returns.
Right, obviously, right? I'm going to ask a couple of questions around governance accountability, and I'll go to Slido. This is a question open to anyone here. So governments try to attract investments while also regulating it, data sovereignty, environmental standards, labor protections. Is Malaysia getting this balance right? Where are the gaps? Anyone else? It's open to all.
Let me take this question from the angle of the data center industry. So after more than 3 years of rapid growth, what the Malaysian government has done is put in place policies, make sure we protect our energy and water resources, and also to make sure that new data centers actually do bring benefit economically to the country. You may have already read this, you've seen this, that the Malaysian government is halting approvals. Prime Minister announced this for new non-AI related data centers. It's now prioritizing high-value AI-linked investments that bring high-tech benefits. Helpful, but essentially saying only AI-related data centers. Now, along with that, the whole process of getting approval has also changed, which we in the industry think is good because, as you know, we ourselves don't want an industry where it's haphazard, where people are just coming in, buying land, just building stuff and so on. We also believe that a bit of regulation actually helps the industry become more healthier and sustainable in the longer term. So I won't go into the process because in the interest of time, if you want to understand it, I can talk to you on a one-to-one basis. I think the regulatory policies that are in place now to ensure that the data centers gets the right, in other words, approval before you build them, and that they have impact economically, that we manage our water and energy usage efficiently. I think that's a good sign. Ensure sustainable and long-term growth of the
So just to give a bit of flavor to the investment story, right? So maybe some of you have had the chance to listen to basically a Malaysian pitch to outside investors, which I had a couple weeks ago to actually Chinese executives from mainland China. And so I think the first of all, the people at Media are extremely good, very competent, very good at bringing a business in. But something that I really liked when I was listening to the pitch was slowly, I think we're moving away from this idea of being the cheapest option, right? Because we cannot compete on being the cheapest option. I mean, you all probably have heard and read a lot and will soon experience, why are Malaysian wages so low, right? Partly because we sell ourselves as the affordable option. So I think we're slowly going away from that. So one phrase that I heard uttered was, if you want cheap, go to Vietnam, right? We are not cheap, right? We don't want to be cheap anymore. We want to be like high-skilled, quality talent, not necessarily cheap, cheaper than Singapore, but still good quality talent, right? And so I think that I've seen it sort of over time has changed a little bit, the narrative. So it's really about not only the bulk quantity of investment, it's also the quality, right? What does the country get in return, et cetera, and stuff like that. So I think that the narrative is turning a little bit, but I do want to caution that, this took a lot of work, right, to get to the point where we can actually push for that. And I think as university students, it's very important to keep on, thinking about, like, aspirationally, you should be dreaming high for yourselves, right? I think about what my aspirations were throughout my life, and I feel like I was most optimistic perhaps when I was in my early 20s, and then it sort of, kind of this. But, this is the time, because of this, again, declining fertility rates, you all actually have quite a big say in how the economy is going to look like, because you will be the economy, right? You will be in a couple of years from now. And so I think that the push from civil society, from companies, from everybody in the sector towards attracting better investments, right? Towards creating an economy that makes more sense for everybody is going to be greatly needed. And so that's why I really like talking to young people, is because you all actually have quite a lot of power in your hands. And so keep on pushing, I think, for things a world you want to see yourself and live yourself, right? We don't want to push for a worse world than where we are, because it's kind of not great anyway. So let's think about ways that we can make everybody better off.
I've got a question here I'm moving on to Slido, and it sort of links to a question that I have here as well. My question is, how do we ensure that Rakyat, especially marginalized communities, have a real voice in these decisions when we talk about digital? The question from Slido was, as Malaysia expands its digital frontier, how can we ensure that rural and lower income communities aren't left behind in terms of access and digital skills? So kind of combine with that question.
Can I take a step?
You take a stab? Yeah.
So this is where, I mean, many of you probably know this, but Malaysia has one of the most active organic NGO scenes, CSO scenes. So we have fantastic organizations that work and support different types of communities. We have fantastic community leaders who help organize, right, in rural areas, in underprivileged areas, in under-resourced areas. And so the thing is that when government makes policies and stuff like that, there actually are quite a number of public consultations. So they do call, roundtables and stuff like that. And they have to do this because everybody, despite whenever people complain, you are part of society, so you get a chance to complain. But the point is that in this very fragmented world where, we have policymakers, Malaysia is a very small country, I like to remind people of that. We are a very small economy as well, and so, we, in the sort of global scheme of things, we don't really have that much economic power, but what that means is we need to basically cherish and nurture all of these organizations that work with communities that are far away. So when I was over COVID, I had done this study looking at how do we distribute resources for food aid across peninsular Malaysia, right? And it turns out that the government has very good records on which community needs the most resources and stuff like that, but it does not actually have the capacity for itself, somebody from Jabatan Kebajikan, to actually go and give out this stuff themselves. So what did they do? They relied on these organizations, right, to actually help them get to the people who they cannot get to. So because of this, these organizations should be nurtured. These organizations should be, if you have extra money every month, just give them like 10 ringgit or something like that, because you will need these organizations to connect policymakers to communities that actually need the help, right? So I'm a very, very big proponent. I'm very proud of the very vibrant Malaysian ecosystem that we have. Compared to a lot of countries regionally, nothing compares to this. Basically, from a government perspective, they can basically think about a community, find somebody who's in charge of it, and get aid to them very, very quickly. So this is something that is amazing, right? And so to me, that is sort of where we want to go to next, is empowering these civil society organizations, because honestly, the government can't do everything.
So I'm going to come from the different point of view. I know whenever we talk about rural community, we talk about access to the internet, we talk about access to digital devices and all that. I'm going to come from a different angle where there are currently a number of organizations I know that are encouraging young people who graduate universities and all that to go back to places like Sarawak, Sabah, to go back to the plantations, fishery, set up fishery farms, set up plantation farms, set up produce farms, and using technology like the web e-commerce technology and all these that we have to market their product globally. Because you have come to study, and so you understand packaging, you understand how to say stuff like vacuum packing and all that technology in food packaging that I'm not familiar. I'm more of a metal guy, tech guy. I don't even know how to eat stuff. But those of you in food packaging, whatever, don't just look at a job, right? Go back to some of you could be from a rural area, but we have rich resources like fishery, farming, and all that. So how do we export these products on a global basis? So I know there are organizations that are trying to do that to kind of improve the economic status of some of the rural areas in the country. And I think that is a fantastic initiative, because that has worked in many, many of the other countries where rural communities have come out of poverty and now suddenly become well-to-do.
Yeah. Sometimes when we come to conference like this and we think digital and everything high-tech, all that's true. And a lot of investment money and a lot of payback. But at the end, a lot of all these things need to touch the human level. I mean, whatever it is, what is it for? It has to touch the human level. And really, how the society handles the disadvantaged and poorer people in terms of accessing, participating, and being part of it, and how to handle when people don't have real jobs do, are very critical questions. And society that's going to thrive and keep on advancing well together without too much tension and cohesion is a society that have got this figured out. Because all this investment is going to make lots of changes. We already know that there are many things that's going to replace what things people used to do. But of course, if all this investment produces those technologies and those things that are, the machine can make our life much easier. You can't go and say, I want to protect my previous jobs, So there must be mechanisms to be able to, transit from one to the other. And this has always been the case. Whether you are in large organization, even in a family, this is our things that are actually happening in our lives all the time. And I think it is good that the governments know how to figure out how to get these things done and motivate the right actions. I don't know. I mean, from an economics point of view, there are a lot of externalities when you talk about environment and sustainability. It is the fact that these externalities are not built into the cost. So if you don't build the cost into Cham or his people, he would just keep on going one way. but you need economists to understand that those externalities are not reflected in the cost of them doing the business. So this is one thing that if a nation knows how to figure out what are the externalities and how to use the tax system to be able to reject all this and create the motivation for companies to engage in the right behaviors. So that this I mean, what I'm saying is, I'm sure what you all have been learning through your course, but yet in practice, it's actually harder than you think.
A question here, and not too sure, okay, are Malaysia's digital efforts truly aligned or just progressing separately under one vision? Anyone? Okay, all right. Anybody? Don't have to if you.
I think first of all, if you look at it from a country perspective, there is the My Digital Initiative Blueprint, right, which outlines in detail. If you've gone through it, you can look it up on the website. There are very clear sub-initiatives within. I think there were 6 or 7, like digital infrastructure, building regional AI hub, software development, and all that. So it's a very detailed document. In fact, it is probably one of the few I've seen around the world where it says detailed at that level, and it's pretty clear. So that's under the charter of the Ministry of Digital, right, to make it happen. There are agencies within the government, like for example MDEC, people who we work with very closely, to drive some of these from an execution point of view, right? And of course, now if you look at the data center industry, it was actually one of that initiative that came out of it. The data center industry did not just overnight happen because everybody loved Malaysia, right? Somebody in Malaysia had to think about it first, and that clearly was stated in the My Digital Initiative, that digital infrastructure will be one of the focus of the Malaysian digital economy, right? And as a result of which, you saw what happened. This is part of that, right? So I mean, of course, nothing is perfect. In execution, there will always be conflicting objectives between departments and stuff like that. But from a broader perspective, when you look at it from a country perspective, everything seems to be aligned. MITI is fantastic, right? I mean, I've dealt with them before. They're very responsive. MIDA is fantastic. I mean, all the agencies looking at investments are just top notch. I can just call them and they get back to me very fast. So very responsive ministry, highly motivated people, wanting the country to succeed, and I think clearly the data center industry is one of the byproduct of that initiative as a whole.
This is a question from Sam, and I think this is for you again, Sucham. Are we becoming just a server landlord for global tech firms, or are there specific mechanisms to ensure spillovers for Malaysian firms and workers?
That's a good one. So, what has happened now is initially, people thought, it's just coming, build data center, low cost, low land, low, stuff like that. But as things started to build out, now we're seeing within Malaysia itself, we have a digital ecosystem now, right? Now, what does digital ecosystem mean, right? If you go back to my first part of the conversation where things just, every time you click on something, things happen, things work. You buy something, it gets delivered to you. Your bank account doesn't get, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. I think this is precisely the thing, right? This whole digital ecosystem is now coming up in Malaysia. And as a result of which, we're seeing more companies, more foreign companies, making Malaysia as the digital regional hub. We're seeing AI companies doing that. We're seeing software development companies coming to Malaysia. We're seeing cloud companies coming to Malaysia. Now, not just the big cloud companies, okay? We're seeing the smaller cloud players coming to Malaysia. On the other hand, now, here's where I tell Malaysian companies, you now have ecosystem where you can decide to establish your global digital presence through this ecosystem. Now, this is the other way around. Now we got a tool where Malaysian companies can go overseas and establish their global regional digital hub because of this.
Okay, this is a question I think I can answer. But of course, your feedback. What are your opinions on the future of AI? Do you believe AI will endure, or is it merely a trend? Is there a possibility that AI bubble might burst? No. I just said no.
No, it's like Pandora's box. The box has been open. You cannot close the box. The box is open, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. The interesting thing, again, because you all are economics people, I can use this. My belief, and I think what we're seeing soon, is that LLMs will actually become perfectly competitive. It's going to be a perfectly competitive market, meaning access to AI, to basic LLM is going to be something that everybody has. They'll be competing basically on speed, as what we're seeing right now between all of the different companies. But it will be out there, right? And so cannot shove it back in the box. Just have to deal with it now. So.
Just a bit of experience when the internet craze started. There's so many names that today I don't know if you all will not know the names, but they were attracting lots and lots of capital, right? And lots of people are quite willing to tell the story and raise the money, and off they go. But the internet stayed, right? Yeah, I mean, there's no way that what people envisaged was going to happen, even after the crash. And after the whole .com crash, people still work with it. People still, benefit from it, right? So this is going to be something like that.
Yeah, 2 years ago, when the ChatGPT first, slightly more than 2 years ago, and the early versions of it, you ask questions, give me the best, travel path between here and there. I want to go on holiday to this country, tell me which are the best places. So people were basically using it for very simple stuff. And then things started to move very, very fast. Less than 2 years later, we're beginning to see, I just mentioned to you now, inferencing now, right? What does inferencing mean? You see, in the past, when you want to look at solving a problem, you got to find a lot of data. You got to find a lot of data from all over the world. You go pick up all this data, you consolidate them into one central big location, and you run your model. But now, what we're seeing is, we're saying, hey, people want to make decisions faster where the data is. So, for example, Malaysian-related data. Why do you have to consolidate Malaysian-related data to somewhere in the US where someone has a huge computing AI resources to process Malaysian data and send it back to Malaysia? Why can't we do it in Malaysia? So this is the whole concept of moving the models to where the data is. Now, the next thing that's happening now is agentic AI, right? You've seen that. Now, what does agentic AI mean? Right? This agentic AI means they are created to do a particular purpose. For example, fill in the expense for me for the whole month. So I don't have to worry anything. All my credit card savings are here. It will fill up all the expense item for me and tell me, am I spending well or am I spending way off the chart? So that's agentic AI. Of course, I'm giving you a simple example, but we're seeing more stuff being created. Now, if I were to challenge you today, start building agent AI. Use your talent to do that, because that's where the money is going to be. LLMs are for the big boys. Unless you want to play in the smaller LLMs, like you say, okay, I'll build an SME LLM for Malaysian manufacturer, or the Penang manufacturer, smaller LLM, not as big as the stuff like what ChatGPTs and QN or DeepSeek and all those are doing. Yes, you can. All right, I want to do an LLM on English. We're just talking about it just now. Right? As you know, Malaysians, when we speak, sometimes we have three languages in one sentences. So that's a language in itself. Now, if you teach AI to understand that, that's fantastic. But where I'm sitting, where I'm looking at a couple of years from now, I would say, invest your time in agentic AI or inferencing AI, because that's where I think money is going to be.
There's a question here. Do you think AI can replace economists or policymakers in the country? Why?
Whoa, I was checking my text and I got this boom. I think that a lot of our analyses can be automated, honestly. And something, so I'm in charge of Asia School of Business's research sector, so that means that I'm responsible for over 60 researchers, right? And unfortunately, when ChatGPT first started coming out, we actually published quite a lot of papers on essentially removing the human aspect of it and having the AI, do the intelligent chatbots, the everything. And it turns out, unfortunately, that the AI does as good as humans. Surprise, surprise, right? And so it turns out that a lot of the economic policy research will actually have to be automated. But I have to say, I still believe very strongly in human explanation. And in particular, there's a lot of startups now, if you look at what's coming up and stuff like that, that are focusing more on like a curated, detailed boutique experience where the human is the one doing kind of the very front end work. So explaining the research, going out and actually collecting the data, we will still have to do that. But honestly, many of you probably have done a lot of data cleaning throughout your life. All of that, transcribing something maybe that you're used to, that's not the fun part of research, right? Like that stuff you don't want to do anyway. So to me, yes, a lot will be automated, but you have to find your niche, right? And maybe this will be wrong in a year from now, and all you econ majors, including myself, a professional economist, will have to find something else to do. But then we'll have to find something else to do. Like, what are we gonna do, right? So, but for now, I think you still need the human element. So don't worry about it yet, love. You have a couple years, right? Yeah.
Thanks. Question here from Iman. I think Iman from Sarawak, right? Earlier on your question. So am I. Questions for either speaker. What role can East Malaysia play in Malaysia's IT development? Will East Malaysia be able to contribute, or will they be forgotten? No, they won't be forgotten.
Actually, I don't feel like I have enough data to speak about this. So maybe Freda, actually. I mean, unless either of you are from East Malaysia, I don't actually know. I mean, I've done some work in Sabah, but not enough to confidently answer this.
Yeah, we know that with the Premier in Sarawak, it's all about digital, it's all about sustainability. There's a lot of effort and talk around it. More talent is required. 5 minutes or more for Q&A. But the thing is, we don't have enough talent, right? There's only a population of 3 million, and 3 million doesn't mean all of them are actually going to be working. So, there's a lot of work around that, and I'm sure the Premier is safe and doing all the right things. Okay, 4 minutes for Q&A, right? These eyes must All right. Okay, Malaysia's digital economy involves tokenization. Would a transition into the digital economy create a data monopoly? Sounds like a Mr. Chiang question.
Trying to understand the idea behind the data monopoly. Is it in relation to data sovereignty, or is it? Well, who asked this question? Is it about sovereignty or is it sovereignty, right? Well, data sovereignty is going to be a major thing for, in fact, all the governments of the world, because I think AI has created something that we now begin to understand, the value of data, right? And because of that, some information will naturally be kept within the boundaries of the country. And this is where data sovereignty will come in. It will be policy set out by government. You're already seeing that, there's already been discussed. Some governments are already classifying AI data as sovereign data. So I think you're going to see that coming in years to come as more and more AI deployments.
Thank you for your questions. For those, please add on.
And just one comment on this whole idea of digital currency and tokenization. Obviously, the promise in the initial start was this is something that will be out of government's control in terms of what will happen to your money and where you can move to, right? But we're finding that even those people who are using bitcoins, being able to extract bitcoins from other people, the US government was able to track down who was doing all that. Okay? I mean, at the end, they have to actually interface with real money. Right? That's not to say that tokenized money cannot be part and parcel of something that all nations have to deal with. But there's an interface that will have to happen if that tokenized money is to be exchanged into real money. Right? So this obviously get into the whole question of money supply and how to control the flow of money and all that. And it's very interesting. I mean, the US government is doing certain things, and other people are doing certain things. And it's an issue that all governments need to be concerned about and also utilize as part and parcel of international trade. Yeah? You see international trade in terms of settlement, it's expensive and sometimes not so quick. And yet, this creates opportunities for governments to know how to do it properly, to be able to facilitate trade and increase the trust of settlement. You see, a lot of all these things that people do in banking sometimes take some time, despite a lot of computing that goes into it, and it has to do with actually giving the confidence of people standing and people receiving money.
I'm going to end off with this question. I'm going to get you to answer first. Sadiq, what's one thing you wish you had understood earlier in your career and how economic change actually happens? And what would you tell the students here to pay attention to?
The economic change obviously impacts all of us. I mean, it looks like it's all to do with money and all the material things, but the economy is really part and parcel of human life, right? And the change, like I said, is constant and it will keep on happening. And in fact, all economies around the world are mixed economies. There's no such thing as pure private economies, and there's no pure public economies. They are all mixed economies. The question of getting the mix right. And you find that most governments, wherever I've lived, will have different aspects of that mixed economy. Some things requires people individually to form together into private enterprise, and that must continue to happen in all societies. And yet the government needs to step in and also engineer an environment for these activities to thrive. Okay? And I think in the middle of all this, I mean, I'm speaking from a banker because that's how I spend a lot of time in banks. Trust is very important. So, all these changes and movements, you find that You know, trust takes a long time to accumulate and build, and it can be destroyed overnight. Yeah. And mind you, some of the corporations that we see are so prominent and so ethical, they say, collapse overnight. I give you a very good example. I was with Arthur Andersen, the Big Four. I mean, I was very proud, you know, but it collapsed because of ethical issues. But the people involved in it, right, did all end up doing something else, right? That's the nature of economies, right? And I think the building of trust, well, not just individuals, but the nation, really part and parcel.
Mr. Chair?
You know, when I was doing my economics as part of my MBA program, right? There are a couple of major things that we always try to learn. Number one was to try to predict long cycles. Number one. Number two, we always thought you tweak this in the macroeconomic or microeconomic policies, this will happen. So it's kind of like predictability, looking for patterns. But we never had the opportunity to experience something like what we're experiencing today. Right? I'm saying it because I have seen so many cycles. Today, this is really, really at a space that is at a pace that is unprecedented. Right? So you got all the heavy lifting tools to help you. Things like the AI and all that. I call them heavy lifting tools because you don't need to go on big stuff and all that. You got a lot of tools to help you do all the things. So the question today is, what I wish I had the opportunity was to ask a lot more questions than I have asked. And you are that generation now because you got all the tools to help you do the heavy lifting. So because people ask me, is AI going to replace all of us? Yes, in its current sense, yes, because if we do things the same way we're doing today, yes, we will be replaced. But if we reinvent ourselves, we re-engineer ourselves to start doing things we've never done before. Question number one is with AI is that you learn to ask more tough questions. And I know that's something all of us are very uncomfortable with. I was like you in school, in college, I never asked any question as long as I scored 100 in my math, I could walk out quietly and nobody say anything. But today that has changed. Today you are a generation that's going to start asking the tough questions. Questions that you were never comfortable with, you got to do it now. Because you got all the heavy lifting tools to help you, so you just have to know how to use all these resources at your disposal.
All right, I'll keep this brief. So as much as you should be aspirational and think about the future, I really do feel like one thing I should have learned earlier in my career and in life is actually that the importance of building the really good community around you. And so I'm a microeconomist, so I tend to look at things from sort of the individual perspective, and I have to say that the biggest thing that has not changed, despite all of career changes and everything like that in my life, has been that I've always had a good community of people supporting me, right? And so my only advice to you is things will change, but as long as you have a core group of people who can help support you through whatever you need to do, and maybe you are part of some other people's small communities as well, you'll be okay. That's sort of what I think.
Actually, I also have some words, and community was really important. I think also as you're all doing research, macro, I did one subject in economics, to probably broaden your horizons beyond looking at economics, right? I did a course in design thinking, and the thing is to look at weak signals of what's happening around the world. There was this company called Kodak, who did not look at, they invented digital, right? They didn't look at the weak signals, and that company has disappeared. Most of you probably don't know Kodak, but they were one of the biggest camera companies in the world, right? So to look up at the weak signals of what's happening, so community, and I think also this community, these connections that you have made. I tell my son, university is great, but it's the friends that you're gonna make. It's the connections that you're gonna make. 10 years, 20 years, these are the people. What's happening as well? Everyone's very siloed under the human connection, empathy, right? These are the things that AI cannot take, right? So be very aware of these things as you move on, and all the best with your studies, and our future lies in your hands. So thank you everyone. Thank you to our panelists. for your sharing. MC?
Gentlemen, we would like to welcome one of our judges for the Video Pitching Challenge 2026. To join us in the hall, please welcome Dr. Shahridan Faiz, Technical Director of Think City, with a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shahridan Faiz is a leading expert in sustainable development and social resilience with over 25 years of experience. He currently serves as a director at Think City, where he spearheads program K2K, Kita Untuk Kita. This high-impact initiative, supported by the Ministry of Finance, focuses on the socio-economic transformation and community empowerment of public housing (PPR) residents across Malaysia. His professional background is anchored by a 13-year tenure at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., where he managed global sustainable development portfolios. Upon returning to Malaysia, he held a leadership role as a director at Kazanah National before co-founding Think City. Dr. Shahridan holds a PhD in Natural Resource Governance from the University of Cambridge and a Bachelor of Science in Geology from Universiti Malaya.
It is now with great pleasure to invite Dr. Shahridan to deliver a few words and share his insights on the Video Pitching Challenge.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Apa khabar semua? Macam lemah saja. Lagi sekali, apa khabar semua? Ada semangat, eh? Okay guys, I mean, it's going to be brief. I would like to share with you, first of all, big congratulations for taking on a very important topic, right? I mean, you're taking on big issues like sustainability, right? Talking about digitalization, right? The digital economy, addressing problems of lagging regions. You know, cities that are developed in different stages, in different levels. Amazing, you know, I'm really, really impressed with all of this, and a big congratulations to MUEC for putting this together. And of course, for putting it in this wonderful, amazing building that has so much historical significance. So again, congratulations. But I'd like to spend a bit of time with you guys to come to something much more fundamental. Yeah? And that is to basically explore the difference between an idea and a concept. Yeah? Do you know the difference between an idea and a concept? Okay, can I ask all of you to put your hands up like this? Okay, your fist. This is your fist, right? Kan? Kita genggam tangan kita, kan? This is your fist. Your fist represents your idea, right? Yeah. It's bold, right? It's powerful. It's got huge potential. Mana tangan semua? And in your heart, you feel your idea is going to solve all the world's problems. Right? You're going to bring world peace. You're going to eradicate poverty. Right? No more traffic jams in Kuala Lumpur. Right? That's your bold idea. But what normally happens? What's the problem here? The problem here is that, you know, when you're stuck in a traffic jam or when you're sitting in your toilet bowl, the idea comes to you, right? But does the idea go anywhere? No. The idea fizzles out and dies, right? So you guys are, you know, you all are the cream of Malaysia's youth. Brilliant, creative. And it's normal for you to come up with great ideas. But the real challenge is how do you make these ideas come to life, right? So you need to be able to translate that. How do you first of all describe it? Write it down. Right? Formulate the ideas more concretely. Share it with your friends. Debate it. Right? Develop your PowerPoint slides. Right? Create your MUEC videos. That's exactly what you guys did, right? Isn't it? And so what happened here? You transform an idea into a concept. Right? And now your idea, your concept is able to be shared. Right? And when you can share it, it takes on a life of its own. Yeah? And that's what I saw when I was reviewing all your videos. All your amazing videos. I want to really take this opportunity to congratulate each and every one of you, because honestly, it was so difficult to give you any marks. I mean, they were all amazing ideas, right? They all had originality in them. And most importantly, they were grounded. I was really impressed. There were issues related to isolated communities in Sarawak. There are issues related to coconut growers in Bagan Datuk. Problems of flooding in Terengganu. Why are tourists not coming to Kelantan? What about people in Cheras? They are facing problems of livability there. Or people who live in the big city and problems of finding parking. I mean, amazing ideas. Amazing ideas. And what you guys have done is to turn those ideas into workable concepts. And for that, I congratulate you. Please give yourselves a big clap. Ayo, why your clap so number one? Can you do one more time? Big one. Now, the other thing that struck me, and just to share your short story. So I studied geology in UM. Who are the UM students here? Okay. So I studied geology in UM, but I decided not to follow my discipline. I decided to follow a different pathway, and I ended up working at the World Bank in Washington DC. That brought me to different parts of the world. And my first assignment was actually in a country called Malawi. And in Malawi, we had to deal with poor fishermen who live around the Lake Malawi. So they live in a very bad situation, with a lot of deprivation and so on. But in one of the interactions I had with the local communities, somebody shared with me a very nice sort of local proverb. And it goes like this. It says, a bird that is perched on a branch is never afraid that the branch will break. Do you get it? A bird that's perched on a branch is never afraid that the branch will break. Why is that? Why is the bird not afraid that the branch will break? It can fly. It means that the bird has confidence, right? That if the branch breaks for whatever reason, it has the ability to fly away. Right? And that is what I saw in all of you in your videos. That was what really interesting. I saw a group of young Malaysians who had amazing ideas, but more importantly, you had, what do you call this? Self-confidence. And jati diri. Semua ada jati diri. So, no matter what branch you guys perch on in your future, after you finish your education and you enter the job market, right? It doesn't matter because you have trust. So, I don't want to speak for too long. I just want to give you my final point here, and that's really again to congratulate the organizers, because I think the utilization of this video pitching format is a really wonderful thing. I think it's very effective, very innovative, and I hope to see more of that in the future. Yeah. Okay. With that, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Sharidan, for your insightful sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move into another exciting segment of the day, the MUEC Video Pitching Challenge Awards Ceremony. The Video Pitching Challenge is the first ever video competition under the Malaysian Universiti's Economics Conference, MUEC, with this year's theme of Smarter Cities for Greater Growth. The challenge highlights the crucial role of young people in shaping a sustainable, equitable, and technologically advanced economy.
To all our video pitching challenge participants, your hard work has not gone unnoticed. Our judges, Dr. Sharidan Faiz, whose presence we are honored to have with us today, Dr. Rachel Gong and Mr. Lee Chia Lok, were truly impressed by the quality and originality of the submissions. Allow me to briefly introduce the evaluation method for the MUEC Video Pitching Challenge 2026. The scoring system consists of 60% from judges' evaluation and 40% from Instagram likes.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the announcement of the winners of the
MUEC Video Pitching Challenge 2026!
We proudly invite Dr. Sharidan Faiz, Technical Director of Think City, and Ms. Kiran Peng, the Deputy Director of MUEC 2026, to come up on stage and present the prizes to the winners.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's now move on to our second runner-up winners, awarding them 100 Ringgit Malaysia along with 1 year free subscription with The Edge Malaysia and 5 Sunway theme park tickets. We proudly announce our second runner-up.
Led by one Ahmad Danish bin one Rushdan,
Team Economy from
IIUM! Congratulations once again to Team Econova from IIUM. Now, moving on, in first runner-up, awarding 300 Ringgit Malaysia, along with 1 year free subscription with the Edge Malaysia and 7 Sunway theme park tickets. We proudly announce our first runner-up, led by Shamsul Haris bin Shamsul Bahri.
EcoNexus 2.0 from IIUM. Ladies and gentlemen, at the moment you have all been waiting for, the champion of the MUEC Video Pitching Challenge 2026. With an award of 500 ringgit Malaysia, along with 1 year free subscription with The Edge Malaysia and 8 Sunway theme park tickets. And the champion of MUEC 2026 Video Pitching Challenge is
Led by Tan Ji Yang,
Team Chili Palmi Enjoyers from
Sunway University. Congratulations to the winners of the MUEC Video Pitching Challenge 2026. Please all groups join us on stage for a group photo to commemorate this joyous occasion.
Okay, get ready and smile on the count of 3, 2, 1. One more, paling manis sekali. 3, 2, 1, Amber.
Once again, congratulations to all the winners. All winners can now go back to their seats.
Next, we would like Miss Kiran Pang to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Sharidan Faiz. Okay, doctor, smile. 3, 2, camera. 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Alright. Thank you again, Dr. Sharidan, for your expertise in evaluating the video pitching challenge. We kindly
Please join me in welcoming Ethan Leng Newson, the President of Persatuan Ekonomi Universiti Malaya PEKUMA, to give his closing speech.
Good evening, everyone, and also to Dr. Sharidan Faiz. As we are coming to a close to MUEC, I think it's only fitting that we take a moment to appreciate just how special this year has been. This year marks our 10th year anniversary, a decade of building conversations, connections, and a community of young economists like ourselves in Malaysia. We usually have MUEC at the FPE auditorium at UM, but for the first time ever this year, we are hosting MUEC at an external venue, here at the iconic Bangunan Sultan Abdul Samad, a place deeply rooted in Malaysia's history since its inauguration in 1897. In many ways, it feels symbolic. As we stand in this monument that represents our past as a nation, we are also here today to discuss the future of our country, all of us. This year's theme, The Great Shift, a new playbook for a digitalized world, challenges us to rethink how we approach economics in an era defined by rapid technological change and realignments in today's global world order. And over the course of this conference, I think all of us have done exactly that. We've explored new ideas, made new connections, and engaged in conversations that push beyond what we learn in lecture halls. But what makes MUEC truly special and what has always set it apart is all of you. This is one of the few platforms in Malaysia where students from all over Malaysia come together in one space under one roof. And this year alone, we've welcomed participants from 12 universities across the country, representing various states, backgrounds, and experiences. And before I end, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the people who have made it all possible. To our conference director, Xiao Tong, and also our deputy director, Kiran, and the entire organizing committee. This event is really a reflection of your hard work, and I really can't be prouder of what you have achieved. All the planning, the meeting, and also probably surviving on caffeine and very few hours of sleep has really paid off, and I really thank you all for your commitment and countless hours you've put in bringing MUEC 2026 to life. And finally, to all our delegates, the conversations we had today do not end here. They continue in our own universities as we go back, and also in our own future careers and in the choices we make moving forward. Because at the end of the day, this great shift that we're talking about is not just about technology and AI. It's about people, it's about me, it's about you and every one of us here. So on that note, thank you once again for being part of MUEC 2026, our 10th year anniversary, and for making this a truly meaningful day for all of us.